everybody? I'm Blessed and Free. Welcome back to another episode of DOC TV. So this has been in the works for a hot minute. We've been trying to get this interview done, and we're finally here with it. So I wanted to give you guys a perspective of what the female goes through when they go to prison. So I have the guest on now. Why don't you tell them what your name is and where you're from?
Hi everyone, I'm Deanna. I'm out here in Southern California. Big fan of DOC TV, so I'm here to tell you what it was like for me.
Awesome. Well, welcome to the show. So, what in your life, like when do you feel like in your life you started to go down the bad route and started doing illegal things? Like how old were you and like what was that like?
I think my first arrest was, I was still in high school and I ended up getting expelled, but it wasn't drug related. So I think illegal things started to happen for me maybe when I was like 25, because obviously I was easily influenced, I was trusting, and I liked to make money. So those three things were a really bad combination for me.
Yeah, that's like the triple threat right there.
Oh yeah.
Triple threat. So when did you get arrested at 25, or is that kind of when you just started doing illegal stuff?
I got arrested at 25, but I mean, like when I was 18, I was always kind of just slanging weed from the house, but never really got into anything more serious until I was 25, and then it happened quick. I was arrested fast.
Right. It's crazy how that happens, isn't it? Like once that one bad thing happens, it's like a domino effect. At least that's what happened for me. So when you first got arrested, what happened with that whole situation?
When I first got arrested, I was still in California, and I had just a minor possession of some cocaine or whatever. They gave me probation and said, complete this program and you won't get any jail time. I didn't really do any jail time anyways. I just kind of got booked in and booked out. It was a really small amount. So I completed the classes, couldn't afford to pay the fines, and ended up skipping out and moving to Vegas.
So you just bucked on the probation?
Yeah, pretty much. I completed the classes, and then I was just like, yeah, I don't have the money, and they were going to violate me. So I got scared. I didn't really know like what kind of time I was going to get for it, and I was just scared. So I left.
So when you left, when was it that they like started looking for you? Because I'm sure you had a warrant out at that time, right?
They never looked for me. It was really not a big deal. They didn't really come looking for me in Vegas. And
Okay.
that was in like 2010. And by the end of 2011, I got arrested for trafficking. And I was already starting that snowball. So
Damn. So when you got arrested for the trafficking, did you get sentenced to prison right when you got arrested, or did you like bond out, or how did that go?
originally they set my bond really, really high. I didn't know anybody who was going to pay that for me, and I had no intention of bonding out because, you know, you just don't know the decisions you're going to make. So I just waited it out, and I went to court. Like 5 days later, they let me out on an OR, which is on your own recognizance. They knew where I lived, knew I had a job. They didn't think I was going to run. So then after that, they do this thing in Vegas where they catch people for doing what I was doing, which was selling, low-level selling in the club, and then they kind of try to engage them to see what they feel about working for them. So they just kind of like started following me around, seeing what I knew and who I knew, and I kept telling them, you know, I'm nobody. I'm definitely nobody, so leave me alone. And it took them almost a year and 3 months to file the charges, to actually
Damn.
charge me with those charges. So they were basically just kind of seeing if I was going to come back. Every 6 weeks I went to court, and they said no charges filed. Every 6 weeks. It was torture.
Damn. So that's crazy to me, because like when I hear you say that, the first thing that goes through my head is like they're there to protect the community and do whatever their slogans are, right? But they're gonna follow you around and hope they can catch you doing something illegal, so then you can work for them and then keep doing shit that's illegal. It's kind of like a double-edged sword, and it's just crazy because that's not how the system should work. I mean, if you do something bad, you know, you pay the time, not do something bad for them and just continue to keep doing it.
Right. Continue to, like, basically they want you to continue to get your contacts in line and feed them to them so that then they can make a bigger bust. And that was essentially, obviously, people who do things like that things don't turn out well for them, if you know what I mean. And I definitely was not interested in doing that. I felt like that was a terrible idea, but that doesn't mean other people didn't do it, because I feel like that's exactly what happened to me. Somebody got caught, and then they just said, oh, here's this chick, knowing I'm nobody. I'm not a threat to them at all. And so it was just an easy give for them to get out of their jail-free card.
So when they finally did get you, like, how did that whole situation go down with them?
Well, the person, my contact, ended up turning out to be an actual undercover narcotics detective. So I go and I just walk across the street. Vegas is really easy. You walk everywhere. So I just walked right across the street with what I was going to sell him, and they just came up. I really thought I was getting robbed. So I go to lock the door because I'm like seeing somebody creep up on my side, seeing him creep up on my side. So I locked the door because I'm scared, because it's a lot of money. It's a lot of drugs. And I knew if I don't have this money, I'm going to be in trouble. And then the guy unlocks the door, and I was like, oh, like I just knew right
Yeah, you knew right then, huh?
I just knew right then, and I was like, oh man. And like, you have that kind of feeling, everyone has those feelings. And in my mind, I always thought, God, that's kind of weird. He did this, and that's kind of weird. But for some reason, I don't know if it's whether I was, using and wasn't in my right mind. I just kind of dismissed it because he was just one of other people, and I didn't pay enough attention to those signs.
When that happened, like when you were doing all the stuff with like trafficking and selling cocaine and shit, were you using the cocaine too?
I was using, like, not really habitually, but I was definitely partying. I was working in the clubs. I was hanging out with the girls, hanging out with clients, and I'm not gonna lie, I was definitely using.
Were you high the day they got you?
No, I wasn't.
Okay,
And
I was gonna say, if I was on coke and all that was going down, I would be so paranoid. So
no, I wasn't. I almost wish, like, when I think about it, I wish I would have been more paranoid, because I was just I'm not really a paranoid type of person. And like I said, I'm trusting. If you're going to tell me you're doing something, I'm not even going to think twice about it. So that was my problem. I was too trusting, and I wasn't paranoid enough, and it really did not serve me well. But they had their guns out, everything with the vest in the middle of a parking lot, and I was so embarrassed. I was like, oh my God.
So when they got you that day, did you kind of like mentally just think like, man, shit is over. I'm done. I'm getting ready to go to prison?
I really didn't know. I didn't know how it was going to go.
Thought they were going to spare you again.
I didn't, I wasn't that dumb, but I knew something was going to happen, but I just got in the car and shut up. And they were like, oh, she doesn't want to talk to us, and she doesn't want to say nothing. And I was like, for what? Like, I just shut up the whole ride. They put me in the car with the smooth talker detective, and I just shut my mouth and just looked out the window and pretended to be asleep. And, what am I going to do?
It was game over, pretty much.
Game over. I knew it was game over. I knew where I was going. I knew I wasn't going to play their game. So I was like, I'm just going to go and see what happens.
So then when you went to jail, how was that jail when you were in jail that time?
The county in Vegas is horrible. Anyone who's been there knows it's bad. You sit down for probably 3 days just in regular holding, no blankets, no socks, no nothing. Luckily, I had average clothes on, like jeans and a long sleeve shirt. So I was comfortable in that sense. But you're sitting down there for a while until they take you upstairs. And it's everybody. It's the prostitutes, it's the drunks, it's the people that were in the club. It's everybody from the Strip and everywhere, and you're in there, and it's just miserable.
Yeah, I can imagine. I actually saw the Las Vegas jail like on one of those shows, Lock Up or American Jails or something like that. That shit looked crazy.
Yeah, it was really bad, and it's like, for some reason, they just have like an abundance of people too. It's not like, there's a couple of people trickling in. They just come like in droves. The people, they just don't stop coming.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. It's how long were you in that jail for though?
I was in there for like 5 or 6 days because it was a Thursday. And so I was down there for 5 or 6 days, and then my court date came, and I was in there with a couple girls who
weren't that quick there?
It was quick. It was really quick. I don't really know why. I think it's because maybe they have such a turnover. It's so crowded. They got to just push you through. And that's why a lot of people get out on OR, because no charges have been filed, because the DA is just swamped. So
Yeah,
they're only going to
that's a
take
good
where
thing.
they're only going to take the cases where they have like where they can move forward quickly.
Right. Well, I know in Florida, when you go to jail, you could be in there on a misdemeanor possession of marijuana charge, and you could sit in there for 4 months waiting on a court date. So that's crazy. At least they kind of handle your shit quick when you're in Las Vegas. So that's a good
Yes.
thing.
Yeah, they handled it pretty quick. I did sit in there for 10 days on a traffic ticket before, though, and I was like,
Yeah, isn't that
damn.
crazy how that works? So when in the 5 days or the week you said, did you get sentenced to prison right then?
No, I didn't get sentenced for probably a year and a half. It was a long,
Oh
long
wow.
time. It took forever. But the girls, that are in there with me, they're like, oh no, I didn't think I was gonna get out. They're like, oh no, I went straight to prison, girl. You go and get 3 years, and you're gonna go straight to prison. And I was like, what? I just was like in shock. I was
That's
terrified.
that jailhouse lawyer shit right there.
Yeah, and they were trash. Like I think about it now, I'm like, that girl didn't know nothing. What the fuck is she talking about? Like.
So when you got out, then did you go right back to hustling, or were you kind of just like falling back? Like, how did that go?
No, I was scared because I knew they were watching me and I didn't really want to endanger like anybody that I knew. Not that they were sticking around, because that dude was straight on his back to California, going right back to California. Didn't care that I didn't have the money or anything. He just wanted to leave, and I don't blame him, because I don't think he knew me well enough to know that he's not going to be in trouble.
Right.
So I didn't want to get anybody else in trouble. I kind of just kept to myself. I had a job at a bar, so I could support myself. It was just on a much leaner, pay.
Yeah, you were on that diet income.
Yeah, I was on that, like, jail income, that top ramen shit, bro. Like, you don't get no fancy meals. If I was lucky, I could eat at work.
Yeah, hey, it's like that sometimes, and I think that's what you don't hear people talk about that. Like, especially when you go to jail or prison, they're always like, "Oh man, I was out there hustling. I was eating this. I had that," but they don't tell you about the times when shit was bad and you were just like didn't know what to do sometimes. And it's not always that glamorous life that people talk about.
It's really not. And like when I sit and I think about it, there were more times that I was struggling to come up with the money to re-up, and I was always scrounging and living like a lean life just so I could get the money to make money. So it's like there were many, many, many more times that I went without than when I wasn't living la vie, bro, at all.
Yeah. So when you got out, you stayed in Vegas?
I did stay in Vegas. My mom wanted me to come home. She was like, honey, just come home, just come home. But I knew that I had to stay there until the charges were filed, because it's like they had me for 3 counts of trafficking and 3 counts of sales. And if I would have ran on those charges, they're definitely going to hit me with all 6 of those. And I might do like 10 years. So I was like, I have to wait this out, because I know I can plead down. I know the system. I know they'll give me a deal. But if I run, they're not going to give me a deal.
Yeah, they're gonna bam you if you try them like that.
Yeah.
So how long was it before they actually like formally charged you and you knew like, okay, I'm not getting out of this. I'm going to have to go pay for this.
Well, I did a lot of research, because I was like, okay, maybe they won't charge me. That wishful thinking you got. I was like, well, maybe they won't, because I don't really feel like it was a good case. I feel like it was a setup. I feel, it's not like it was a setup. And I know I was doing wrong. I know I wasn't doing the right thing, but I thought maybe they won't. So I think they took all the way to the end of when they could charge me. So a year and 3 months. And then from then on, it was just entering a plea, letting me know like how much time I was going to do, whether I was going to be offered probation. And that happened within a year and a half. I mean, I was in prison by October of 13. Yeah, well, what they did is they kind of let me know this is what, they don't have a mandatory minimum sentence structure there. So it was just kind of like your history plays a part in it. This was my first charge in Nevada. I'm not sure that they took into account the charges I had in California. So it was, they said you might get like 12 to 30 months, or you can try probation, but you're going to be on probation for that full 30 months. And I just, I didn't really know if probation was going to work for me. I didn't really have a home. I had moved out of my apartment because the paranoia kicked in. And so I moved, like, of course, after the fact, the paranoia kicks in. So I had moved out of my apartment. I was kind of just living wherever. I didn't really have a stable address. I didn't really have a job that I wanted to tell them about, because I don't want them coming into my job, because my people I worked for weren't exactly legit. They were doing what they wanted, and they don't want attention in their club.
They don't want that heat.
They don't want that heat. And they were already like, where were you? What happened? And I had to tell them. What am I going to say?
Yeah. So then when all that was going on, did they offer you probation and you took it, or you kind of were hoping they were going to give you probation?
They offered me probation, and I was, after they sentenced you, I guess I was supposed to go to the probation office right after that, but they didn't.
Yeah, that's what you do.
They didn't tell me that, okay? So I was just like, okay, whatever, and I was just going to wait for him to call me. And then they called, and they were like, yeah, you got to come in, because, like, you were supposed to come here, and now you're in trouble. And I was like, oh, okay. And I just never came, because I was just like, no. And then I go back to actually, I think, like, you go down, I don't remember exactly, but you go downstairs, and they tell you what you're going to get, and then you go upstairs, and the judge sentences you. So I go back to get actually, like, sentenced to the months that I'm going to do in prison. And then that's where I was like, okay, I need 6 weeks. I got to get my life together. I have a job. I have a kid or whatever. I have some things I need to get in line. And they were like, yeah, sure, whatever you need. They were really cool. And I just never went back.
So then they put a warrant out for you.
Yep. Then there was a warrant out, and then I was officially on the run.
So how long were you on the run for?
I mean, it seemed like forever, but it probably wasn't. I think it was maybe like June to October, because in Vegas, it's really, it's a bit, I feel, I'm not proud of it, but it's like, it was a while, but it was probably the hardest times that I'd ever dealt with. I didn't have a home address because I didn't want them to find me. Every car ride, every walk into a casino, everywhere, I just felt like they're going to find me. Everywhere.
And eventually, I'm assuming they did, right?
They for sure found me, because they have these, they send the warrants out to the hotel's security, and the whatever active warrants, and then they have the facial recognitions that, I'm not really sure how the computer programming works, but I know that your face will get recognized when you walk into a casino. And if somebody recognizes your face and kind of puts it together with the active warrant list, then they're going to come up to you in the casino. And that's exactly what happened.
So
and
they got you in the casino?
In the casino. They got me in the casino. And they were like, is this you? And I was like, no, that's not me. But it's hard because I got the tattoo. So it's like real, it's distinctive.
I know about that, yeah.
Yeah, it's distinctive and really identifying. So I tried to have my hair like over it, but they saw it. I had a fake ID. And they were like, oh, are you sure? Is this you? Are you sure? And yeah, it just turned out all bad for me. And then the real cops come, and they're like, oh, is this you? You have an active warrant. And I was just like, I just didn't say anything. And they just cuffed me and took me to county.
Damn. So then when that happened, how long were you in county that time before you actually took, like, the prison bid?
I was definitely there for like 2 months.
2 months?
Sitting there.
How was that? How was it being in there the 2 months versus being like in booking? Was that different?
It was bad. It was really bad. The officers in county, I don't know if it's because they're just miserable people, but they treat you bad. The women, they like to like put you down and down talk you. A lot of the girls are prostitutes, and they shame them. They're always like, talking about how, oh, you shouldn't be doing this. Maybe you shouldn't be doing that. Oh, yeah, you hella sorry. Like, always making, like, you're already in a shitty situation. Don't do that. I'm sorry your life is miserable. Don't take it out on us.
Right,
and,
you're already miserable. You're in jail.
Yeah, like, we're in jail, dude. And not a lot of us are getting out. Because if you're up there, you might be doing 10 months or more. And 10 months in the county, oh, God, I would die. Like,
Yeah, that's what I talk about on my channel, the difference between like jail and prison. And it's just crazy because when you're in county jail, so many people will be like, man, I can't wait to go to prison. And to the average person hearing that, they're like, wait, what the fuck did you just say?
Yeah.
And it's because jail is just, there's no freedom. You can't, I mean, we're in Florida, you can't see the daylight, you can't walk around on the yard. Like it's just so like claustrophobic. And for me, I even have said that, like, all right, I'm just gonna take this prison bid and go up the road and do my time. And it is honestly better to be in prison than it is jail. It's crazy that is the sound to say
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. I said it too. It's like when I was in there, just like you said, it's like a terrarium. You
Yep.
know, like there's sunlight, but it's probably like two spaces away, and you can kind of like see it a little bit, but you're not getting out on the yard, you're not exercising. The food is miserable, and it's just like they had like a rat infestation at the county, and so they were like trucking in the food, and it was cold and stodgy, and it was bad. And I said that too. All these girls were like, oh, you're gonna like prison, you're gonna like prison. And I was like, yeah, I'm sure I will.
So when you finally did get sentenced in court, what did they give you?
They gave me 18 to 60 months for the trafficking. And I was confused because, all this was back in 2013, and all of that AB 101, A and B felons get 40 off the front and 40 off the back. So I was like, 40 off 18, that ain't shit. I can do that easy. But because I was a B felon, I definitely had to do that 18, and they could dump me all the way to 60 if they, on my parole, all the way to that back 60. Because I guess they take it pretty seriously. They do say trafficking is a violent crime. So, yeah.
That's crazy. So you have to do the 18, but once you do the 18, you have a chance to be released. But if you don't get that release granted, you can actually do the 60.
You can. Well, the 60, you get 40 off the 60. So you get 40% off the back.
Okay.
So you basically, what would it be, like maybe 34 months on the back? So you could do between 18 and 34 months. You're going to go to parole, and they're going to say, no, we're going to leave you in here for 6 more months, or blah, blah, blah.
So when you took the prison sentence in court that day, like what were you thinking? Like after you're leaving the courtroom with, 18 to 60?
I was really sad. Like, just to, it's like you hear that number, even doing 9 months, losing your freedom is something that, I mean, it sticks with you, bro. Like, you never forget it. And I will never forget that moment, because it's like, there's no way to get out of it. Nobody can get you out of this. There is no solution. You are doing this time. You are leaving. That's it. Like,
well, for me, when I took when I took my prison sentence, that thought is what crossed my mind too. But at the same time, it kind of like helped me to think that, because then I just kind of was like, there's no other option. Like, I have to go do this time. And once that's in my head, like, I can kind of just get into that thought and ride it out for a little while. Now, when you're in there, obviously, there was days where I was like, man, this shit sucks. You have a dream and wake up, but you're still in prison, but your dream was about you being on the street. And so, but for me, like, when I hit that mind state, like, it's just like, all right, let's ride. Like, we got to do this. You know what I mean? So I had that same exact thought. So
yeah, the dreams are the worst, because it's like, you wake up from those dreams, it's almost like you're losing your freedom every single time you wake up from those dreams, because they're so vivid and they're so real that you think, oh, good, that shit was just a dream. But no, you're losing your freedom every single time you wake up from that dream. It's devastating.
Yeah, it sucks waking up sometimes, right? So when you went back to county jail, how long was it before you actually, like, they woke you up at night and said, all right, let's ride to prison?
Yeah, they from the day I got sentenced, it was definitely 2 months. So I was in there probably 96 days, I think, because when you get to prison, they give you credit for the days that you were in county. So
Okay, so you get credit towards that 18 to 60 from the time you spent in county. All right, that's how
Yep.
it is. So, well, at least you got those days, so that's good.
Uh,
So all right, so they wake you up, they tell you, Pat, roll your shit up. Let's go. We're going to prison. So when you pull in to the prison, like on the way there, were you on like a bus, a bluebird, or how did they transport you?
they transport in vans because they're only going to take like 12 at a time, but they wake you up, they cuff you to each other like they always do. You got to go downstairs, you got to strip out of their clothes, and they give you the prison clothes. They search you, you squat and you cough, and they've got to take your hair out, you got to do everything. They check your ears, they check everything. You put on the prison clothes, then you get on the van and go to the prison.
So a question for that. So a lot of people, like when I tell stories about how it is in prison, they do that the same thing to the guys. You got to squat, cough, do all that. Now I would, for me, it was kind of like it is what it is. But for a woman, I mean, that did you feel like you were being degraded at that moment?
I didn't feel like the COs, it wasn't the first time that I had to do it, but I felt more like looked at by the other inmates.
Like
That's the
checking you
weird,
out?
yeah, like the inmates were more, because the COs, they see that shit every day. Like they do not want to see all that. They're sick of
Right.
seeing all that. So the inmates were the more of like a intrusion on my
So like,
privacy when,
hey.
yeah, they're like, ooh, girl. I'm like,
Oh
stop.
wow. So all right, so you get to prison, you pull up. How's the prison look? Like that was your first time seeing a prison. I know for me when I pulled up, I was like looking out the window, like, okay, it's about to go down, da da da. Like what were you thinking?
The prison just looked desperate. Just desperate, fenced in, dark. It's by the railroad tracks, just like that song. Like, you hear that song, I forget who it's by, but they talk about how it's by the railroad tracks, and it's definitely by the railroad tracks. It's desperate, gray, ugly, and you immediately see the people who work there that are long timers. You can tell they're long timers. They're all butched out, and they start checking you in, and they're just bitter, angry, and I'm just like, fuck, oh God, like, is this gonna be like everybody here? Like, you just don't know what the people are gonna be like.
So is that like, do they take you through like, taking your picture, medical, and then do you go straight to the dorm you're gonna be in, or do you kind of go to like an orientation dorm?
What they do is they take your picture, they get your medical, they do all that kind of stuff, and you're kind of just in a big room with everybody for like the entire day, like the
Oh,
whole day. So you're just sitting there, getting all your paperwork done. They're figuring out where your housing's going to be, and then you go to intake, basically the fish tank, where it's like segregation for 5 to 6 weeks until enough people move through that they have room in like the 12-bed cells. And sometimes they don't even have room, and you have to sit in intake for a long time, and it's horrible. You don't get out of your cell. They deliver your meals. You can't go anywhere. You can't do anything. There's no yard. You can't order store. You can't get packages. It's
man,
desperate.
so that's that pressure.
Yeah.
So is that just an intake that they have 12 bunks to a cell, or is that how it is your whole time?
No, in intake it's just 2-man cells.
Oh,
When
okay.
you get out of intake, you go into the 12-mans, and that's horrible too. It was even worse, the 2-mans, because I'm like kind of a solitary person. I don't want to be bothered. I'm not trying to get in with the cool kids. Like, I'm trying to mind my business. When I got into a 12-man after being like so sheltered and isolated, I was like, I want out of here. I can't take this. It was just too much. Like, it was
Too much
hard.
drama, right?
Yeah, too much drama, and it's like it's not segregated, and it's like, you put 12 women in a cell of different races and different personalities. Everyone thinks they're a boss. Everyone's got an attitude, and it gets ugly. It gets super ugly.
So when you got put into the 12-man cell, like what was the straw that broke the camel's back where you were just like, all right, bitch, I've had enough. Like I'm sure that had to have come to a point from what you're saying, right?
There, yeah, there are definitely, mostly it's because people are loud at night. And I know that sounds really petty, but if you're going to be loud and sitting in the window signing your girlfriend and the cell across there and like saying the words while you're signing them, shut up. Like,
Yeah.
I really want you to shut up. I can't take it anymore. And I always liked the top bunk because I feel safer on the top bunk because I just like to be above everybody else, right? So she lived on the bunk under me. And you just get down, and I just ended up throwing like a cup at her or something because I was like, seriously, I can't shut up, like shut up.
Yeah.
And people aren't really like they like to act like they're big and but they really don't want no problems when it comes down to it. I don't know if maybe they just thought that I might have been crazy or something, or maybe I had a bad attitude, but they didn't really bother me that much.
Yeah, they were on that. There's tons of people that act like that, man. They have that loud mouth and they act like this and that, but when it comes down to it, they're really not living like that. And you probably just checked them and it worked.
Yeah, I was lucky. In that sense, I was lucky because I didn't really want problems either, but I do have a temper. I'm really patient and I'm really cool until I'm not. And then it's like I do have a temper. I know that. So
I can relate to that. So I know
yeah.
what you mean. So did you stay at one prison when you did your time, or did you get transferred to like multiple prisons?
No, I did not stay at the same prison. What happens is because if you don't have any medical holds, like I wasn't on any medications, I didn't have any health problems, they send you to the conservation camps, which is like a low carbon footprint kind of camp where you're living dorm style, you're living like you're at summer camp, except that what you work for is the Nevada Department of Forestry, and you have to take the pack test where you run the 3 miles with a 45-pound pack in under 45 minutes. And then you're going and you're digging fire lines and like doing yard work for the Department of Forestry for like 20 cents a day.
Damn. Yeah, in Florida, you don't even get paid they do the same thing. They put you on like a Department of Transportation out on the side of the street, and you don't get paid crap. So, damn. So at least they're paying you something out there.
Yeah.
So when you did that, that's where you actually left from? Is that camp right there, like the low carbon footprint camp, I guess you called it?
No. Well, I went there, and then what they do from there is you get downgraded to like a minimum custody, they call it. So
Okay.
if you're good and you're doing your job and you because I think their goal is to get people out of the the high traffic places. They want you to go somewhere and sit there and do your time. So I went to a minimum custody place, which is like you're allowed to work, you're allowed to go out on the street, you're not allowed to have a phone, you're not allowed to have money, you still have to wear like a prison dress code outfit, and you're just kind of supposed to go out. You do like things that help you get a job training, things like that. And that's where I walked away from.
Okay. So when you were in there, is it like segregated, or is there like in male prison in Florida, there's a lot of gangs, a lot of gang activity. Is it like that in Las Vegas?
No, they
No?
don't segregate at all. Nothing is segregated. There are the biggest gangs that you want to call them for the females is the Hispanics, because I don't know why, but they stick together. Hands down for them, they do stick together. They don't, travel over into other realms of white people or blacks or anything like that. But there is no segregation. They put you wherever they're going to put you, and if you don't like it, you can throw a fit. And if you get a CO that feels like maybe it's going to be a problem, they'll move you. But other than that, no, they don't care.
That's one thing, like that's the same way it is in Florida. That's the like one thing I've always noticed is somebody like Puerto Rican, Spanish, in Florida we call them Chicos. Like I always admired that. Like they never let their people go without. They're always all eating together. And I've never seen another race rock out like they do, especially with the unity part of it. So that's crazy. They're like that worldwide then, I guess.
Yep, it's definitely worldwide, and They do stick together, and it kind of like made me feel like a little bit more alone when I was there, because there are white people, but either they're trying to hang out with Mexicans or they're trying to hang out with blacks. There were a few that, and we did stick together, but not like in crowds and droves like the Hispanics do. Like there's just no way. And it's like they're there, but they're not rocking for you.
Yeah, it's the same way over here too. So when you were at that camp, what was the craziest thing you think you saw? Like violence, girl on girl, like what was the craziest thing that you saw during your bid?
I mean, you see girl on girl all nonstop, bro. Especially when you're in the 12-man cells, somebody's gonna be attracted to somebody in there,
Right.
and they're gonna be getting it on right in the bunk next to you, and that's just life. That's how they act in there. And I think I know I have never been pursued on the street by a man more aggressively than I've been pursued by a woman in prison. Like, I know that's like a lot of words together, but like, or maybe that's how sad these dudes are on the street. But these girls are so aggressive, and they are so territorial, and they are so like loyal to each other. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Man, that's crazy. So when all that was happening, like, were you just like, okay, all right, like kind of leaving them alone, or?
Just plug your ears. I don't want to hear it, because it's kind of gross, especially not that like them being attractive would make it better, but when the people are kind of like icky and I don't know, this is going to sound real weird, but like it would be different if the people were like clean and nice and cute and sweet, but they're not. They're like butch, they're aggressive, they want to act like guys, they want to pretend that they're men, and I find that really off-putting. So I did see a lot of that. Violence-wise, I did see violence more between inmates than I ever did with COs and inmates. They have these plastic cups that are like indestructible. And
yeah,
like
I know
these
about
girls,
those.
yeah, they got those plastic cups, bro, and they are like really, my friend chipped her tooth on the cup. Like she just accidentally brought it too close and chipped, maybe she was a junkie though, and her teeth were like weak, but she chipped her tooth on the cup. And these girls, this one girl in the chow hall, she took that cup and she cupped it like this, and she just smashed the shit out of this girl's face, broke her whole cheekbone, her ear was like mangled, and I don't even know what it was about. And I was just like, damn, just like trying to scoot by, because you don't know if they're gonna, everybody's got to get down. Everyone's getting cuffed. Everyone who saw everything. She was bleeding everywhere. It was horrible.
Yeah, she probably smacked that girl at the cup because one of the other girls liked her girlfriend or something crazy. That's what usually happens.
That's exactly what happens. And it's like you always have, you got these butch girls in there that they'll come in there and they'll straight shave their head because they're that down. They are that down. They're like, I'm going to prison. I got to get my game on. I got to start sagging my pants and get my butch look. And, some of them even were on the streets and they got like 5 kids, bro. But they're in there.
Calling their man from prison, but shaving their head when they're in there. That's crazy.
Yeah, because, they got a couple years. So they're just trying to figure out maybe their family can't support them. And that's the thing, is they want to click up with the bitch who can take care of them. And they don't have to worry about, because who wants to ask their family for money when somebody's taking care of them 5 kids, bro? Like, the last thing you're going to call is be like, can I get some money on my bikes? Like, yeah. And if they have any kind of conscience, they're not going to do it. But that doesn't mean they're not going to do it.
So who was riding with you? Like, for me, it was my, grandma. That's who kind of was always there for me. Who was there for you during your prison bid?
For my first half, I was kind of riding it by myself, but I'm talented. I can draw. So everybody knows that if you can draw in prison, you can still make money. But my second half, my mom, what?
You had a little hustle going on.
Yeah, I had a hustle. I can make cards. I can draw anything. I did envelopes. You can sell envelopes for $1. So I got what I needed at the beginning that way. But my second half, my mom really rode for me. She would send me my packages, make sure I had everything I needed. And, she really took care of me good. And from that day forward, she knew that I was a different person, because it takes a while when you get in there and you're actually clean and you start thinking, dude, I cannot live like this. I cannot be these other people that are coming back over and over and over again. And I just started talking to her and telling her, this is how I feel, and this is why I did it, and this is what's going to change. And she just said, I trust you. I believe you, and we're going to get through this together. And then, she was there for
mom, huh?
I love my mom.
So for me, when I was in there, there would be guys that would be like 60 years old, like sleep a couple bunks down from me. And they would like had been to prison like 4 times, 5 times, 6 times. And I would just sit there and look at them and I'm like, man, if I keep doing what I'm doing, like I'm going to be that guy in freaking 40 years. And that was my like aha moment. And it should have been way before that, but unfortunately it wasn't. And I was just like, man, this is not the spot. Like, I don't want to end up like that guy. And that's really what I was always paranoid about, is ending up like that. So I totally get what you're saying about when you were talking to your mom. And, I know that feeling, like you're just ready to surrender and kind of just give up to the fact that you can't live like that anymore.
Absolutely. You just got to realize this shit ain't for me. And like you said, I saw the people in there, from really, really young, 18 years old, from really, really old, and everything in between. And I was just like, I do not fit in here. This is not my jam. These are not my people. Yep. And there were a few other people along the way that were in the same situation as me, and they still had their families, and, I made a good friend in there from that, just because we lived the same. We're both from California. We both loved our moms, and we ended up being really good friends. And that was it.
You guys still friends to this day?
It's super hard for me because she got out a little bit before me, and she completed the same program as I did, a shortened version of a program. So she didn't really have enough time. She got out and started using again. And by the time I got out, she let me know she was using again. And I always told her when we were in there together, if you ever start using again, you can never talk to me. Never, because I cannot associate with you. If you're going to do anything like that, I will cut you off. So don't even contact me if you are. So I contacted her right when I got out because I couldn't wait to see her. And she was like, I started using and I left my parents, and I was like heartbroken, because it's like you make that bond with somebody, you spend every day with them for 2 years or whatever. And for them to just be gone, it broke my heart.
Yeah, I've had that happen to me too. And what's crazy is when you're doing time with people and you get tight with them and you guys start chilling and everything, like they're cool ass people in there. You know what I mean? And you build that friendship with them. But what's not the remedy, like the situation that's not going on in there, is they're not getting high. So you're getting the true person that you're chilling with. But when they hit the streets, like what you're saying, then they got all those temptations, all those vices, and people change. That shit will change someone real quick. And I've actually met someone in prison and seen them on the street, and they were high, and it was like, bro, who the fuck are you? Like, I don't know this. So that's just the power of what addiction and drugs do to people.
Yeah.
All right, everybody, stay tuned for the next episode. We're going to do part 2 to this interview. I really hope you enjoyed what she's been saying and learning stuff from it. Any females out there, this is what you can expect when you start going down the road that she went down. So I just want to thank you for being on the show. And if you want to tell the people something.
Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Oh, that's what's up. Yeah, don't forget to like and subscribe. DOC TV, I'm out.